Hi everyone, my name is Cyrus and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about the TV show The Bear. Now I finished watching season 4 of The Bear recently, and I've just not been able to get this show out of my head. It is just so incredibly good. It's maybe one of the most real pieces of TV that I've ever watched. It is so real, feels so deeply human, and honestly, might be one of the best shows of all time. Certainly in my mind, a contender for top 10 best shows of all time. It is amazing. I just want to talk about the show a little bit today. A show that started off as a stressful show about a restaurant and has become a heartwarming show about people, albeit still stressful at times. This show is a show that can make me cry, can make me laugh, and can get me super stressed all in one episode, and often does do that in every episode. I've cried probably like 80% of the episodes for The Bear. So it is just an amazing show, and I just want to gush about it a little bit and hopefully convince you and tell you why you should be watching The Bear if you have not watched it already. Honestly, one of the main things is I think that The Bear has really set an example for what storytelling can be in a TV format. I think it's honestly raised the bar a little bit, for me at least, into what I'm looking for and hoping from a really good TV show. And because I want as many people as possible to watch The Bear, this whole video is going to be spoiler free. I'm going to be giving a lot of examples about different things, but they're all going to be vague. And I'm just going to be talking about what I think makes this show just top tier, super good, and why you should really consider watching it if you've not watched it already. Now, if you've never heard about The Bear before, first of all, how did you find this video? But second of all, I'm super jealous of you because you get to go on this whole journey completely fresh, and I really wish I could do that again. So you are in for a real treat. The Bear is about a Michelin star chef who comes back home to Chicago after his brother's passing to take over his brother's old sandwich shop. It's a story about how he is dealing with his brother's death, how he is reestablishing or trying to reestablish himself in this place that holds so much history, and how he's really trying to bring this old sandwich shop up to his current and new standards. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is how this show deals with visual and audio storytelling. This show has a ton of B-roll. I'm talking all over the place, whether it's of food, of the local scenery, of wherever the show is happening at the time. There is a lot of B-roll in this show. And at first, you kind of just think, oh yeah, this is really pretty. For me, honestly, it's some of the best B-roll that I've seen in a show like this. It's super beautiful. It's super nice to see, whether it's the food, like I said, or the scenery. And at first, you don't really think much about it. There's some fun indie music playing in the background, and you're just enjoying it. But eventually, as you continue to get more and more through the show, you start to realize that there's a lot more happening within this B-roll footage. They're capturing a lot of what the characters are living. You're getting to see a lot more behind the scenes. Sometimes these B-roll scenes last like 4 to 5 minutes, and you're just sitting there and you're experiencing it and you're watching it. And like I said, at first when you start to think, yeah, this is just B-roll in between the important scenes, you start to realize that these B-roll scenes are in some cases just as important as the actual scenes with the actors and the characters in them, because they're establishing the lives and the place that these characters are. You're getting to learn more about them by watching this B-roll and learning about, where they're coming from, how it's affecting their mood, all these things. You're getting to really learn almost like a deep dive into what these characters are living in their day-to-day lives. You get to see how the characters get to work, what they eat, where they live, all these things. And around halfway through watching the show, I started to realize that subconsciously it had been informing me about these characters in all these little different ways. And there are all these B-roll shots about the city, and not basically B-roll shots where the characters are not directly in the clips, but then there's also B-roll shots with the characters in them, with the restaurant. And these shots, although there's no dialogue happening, tell so much of the story. You get to see what's happening, you get to feel the stress, you get to see what's going on, and you get to see the characters build up their skills, gain more confidence. You see the food that they're making and how they're doing it, and you're seeing this progression from these characters with absolutely zero dialogue being said. It's just all purely visual and audio, and I think it does an amazing job of utilizing that with its storytelling. And I'll tell you, when I'm watching this show, I get hungry because part of that visual storytelling is the food. It's a restaurant, And some of these food shots or these cooking shots, I'll just say have a plate of food or have a snack ready when you're watching this show, because you will get hungry watching this show. And even though, having a bag of chips like that is good, when you're seeing, a steak or a steak sandwich being made, it's not going to hit the spot in the same way, but at least you won't be starving sitting on the couch watching the show. Now, we've been talking about all the visual and audio cues that the bear uses, and those are all great, but I want to switch gears a little bit to almost the complete opposite, because what the bear does also incredibly well is sit in silence. They are so good at just letting silence sit and wait when characters are having conversations. They have done an amazing job at doing that, letting them sit in the silence, sit in the discomfort, and it's just utilized so well. Often when characters are having difficult conversations in the show, you will see the characters stop and actually think about what they're trying to say, what they want to say, or thinking about how they feel about what was just said to them. And that's all done in silence. And it's really refreshing to not have a show that's trying to constantly cram content down your throat, whether it's a joke or action or anything. They're okay with just sitting in silence. And I'll be honest that at first it made me a bit uncomfortable and I couldn't really figure out why. And then I realized that it makes me feel a bit uncomfortable because it feels so real. It feels almost intrusive that I'm sitting here listening and watching this conversation happening, because it feels almost too real. And it's really refreshing that the bear is able to do that so consistently throughout the entirety of the show, especially throughout the show that does have these moments of high stress, to have the opposite where there's no noise and there's just silence. It contrasts the stress so well, and they are just experts, in my opinion, of knowing when to use silence in just the best possible way. And that really flows well into my next point. The bear really trusts their audience. They trust that they can sit in silence for a while, or that they can use a 4 or 5 minute B-roll scene and that their audience isn't going to stop watching the show. They trust and respect you as a viewer. They don't feel the need to constantly be explaining things to you. They trust that you'll pick things up with context clues. They trust that you're a smart audience member. And I really love that about the show. I love that they're not explaining every single thing over and over again all the time, that they understand and hope that you're going to pick things up with context clues, pick up who a new character is or what's going on. It's just really nice to have that in a show and not have a show that's constantly trying to remind you about a thing that happened a couple episodes ago, or just, again, constantly be trying to hold your hand. The bear doesn't try and explain to you what the ride is. It just lets you come along for the ride, and I really love that about the show. Now, one of the last things that I think makes the bear so freaking good is that it has just the most amazing cast of characters in the show. And, kudos and props to every single actor and actress in the show, because they do such an amazing job of portraying their characters. Every single character feels like they've lived whole lives, like they have full and deep backstory of how they got to where they are and who they are now. And it feels like the relationship between one another is so real. So much so that sometimes I forget that I'm watching a TV show and that people are acting in this show. It just feels like I'm almost watching like a documentary or something. It is just, every one of these people feels so real. And again, talking about trusting your audience, many times when new characters are introduced, there's not really a here's who this person is and here's why they're important. They don't do that in this show. The characters just bounce off one another so well that you find out who they are and what their relationship is with the rest of the characters really easily just by context clues. And honestly, again, this cast just works so well together that I really find it hard to believe sometimes that they haven't been working in this sandwich shop, in this restaurant for years and years, because they just do such an amazing job at being and portraying those characters. And obviously, that's what acting is. But rarely have I seen it done so well and felt so human and so real as I have in The Bear. It is just so well done. To wrap things up, if you can't already tell that I'm absolutely in love with The Bear, and there's not much more I can tell you without jumping into major spoiler territory, I can get that this show might not always be for everybody. It can be a very stressful show to watch at times, and not everybody's always looking for a stressful show. There was one episode in particular that stressed me out so much that I had to take a small break before continuing the series. And if you've watched the show, then you know exactly which episode I'm talking about. All I can tell you is that if you want to experience an absolutely amazing story with amazing visuals of food and of scenery, with great characters, and experience a show that trusts you as an audience member, as a viewer, then I cannot more highly recommend The Bear. So, Have you watched The Bear? If you have, please talk with me about it in the comments below. Not a lot of people in my life have actually watched The Bear, so I would be more than happy to chat more about it and hear what your thoughts are about the show, about everything I've talked about today. I cannot wait for season 5. I'm so excited. You'll be getting more videos about The Bear from me when that time comes. I'm absolutely sure of it. But until then, until next time.